If there's one thing I know about guys, it's guys love stats. We love statistics about things. I could probably talk to any guy and go, tell me some statistics about your favorite thing, and they'd be able to rattle off a whole bunch of them. Like, Dr. Smith, give me some statistics about your favorite thing.
I don't know. I do a lot of sports stuff, and I know a lot of really useless things, basketball was created in Canada by Naismith. They used to play it with peach baskets, and initially they used a soccer ball instead of a basketball because everybody bags on soccer.
Uh-huh.
So I use that as my plug of hey, basketball used to be played with a soccer ball, so you can suck it.
Right.
And then, I know a bunch of useless facts of that kind of stuff a lot of different sports stuff.
All right. Mitch, statistics about your favorite thing.
So I know a lot about Pokemon. I've been playing it since I was 8 with my friends and family. We still, to this day, in our late 30s, play together online. And so I know a lot about that. And
give me a stat. Give me a Pokemon stat.
We are up to 1,025 different ones that you can catch. However, in the most recent edition, after they did a bunch of weird stuff, you can only get about 750.
Okay, that's good. When I was younger, I was into muscle cars. Not so much now, but I still remember some stuff. And my favorite was a 1967 GTO. That was my dream car, Pontiac GTO.
Yeah.
And in 1967, it went from the 389 motor with the 6-pack carb system to a 400 cubic inch with a 4-barrel, which the high output version, there was 3 different versions of it. The high output one had 360 horsepower at 5,100 RPM and 438 foot-pound of torque at 3,600 RPM. How about that?
What was the dry weight on that, Scott?
I don't remember the dry. I had books on the GTO with all those stats. So, guys do know a bunch of statistics and numbers from sports cars to Star Wars, but what about the stats that really matter? And I'm talking about our health stats. Yeah, there's a little bit of silence in the room on that one.
Okay.
Which ones should we know and what do they mean to us? So today, health stats, every man should know about themselves. And you should be able to rattle off just as easy as we rattled off our stats. This is Who Cares About Men's Health with information, inspiration, and a different interpretation of men's health. My name is Scott. I bring the BS. The MD to my BS is Dr. John Smith.
Howdy.
And he's a I care about my health convert. It's producer Mitch.
Hey there.
All right. So Dr. Smith, we asked him this question. We asked him, what are the top 5 stats, in your medical opinion, that every man should know about their health and why? So we do want you to keep something in mind. This is Dr. Smith's medical opinion, and other providers might have opinions that may vary. But, that would be a good point of conversation with your doctor about these stats. I mean, debating, does this stat even belong there or not? That's something guys love to do, but why don't we do it with our health? So we're just going to go through the list here, 5 to 1 in no particular order. So number 5 on the big 5 stats men should know about their health and be able to rattle off as easy as stats about their favorite thing. What is it?
So I think one of the most important to me is your lipid panel. There are some other just regular labs that your doctor is probably going to draw when you go in for your regular physical, but I think the lipid panel has a bigger impact on a lot of the things that we do.
What is a lipid panel? What is that even?
Man, you skipped ahead like you already have the slideshow in front of you.
I want to know first so I know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So in a lipid panel, it's your total cholesterol, and then you've heard of good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. Mm-hmm. The low density lipoprotein cholesterol, or LDL, or it gets known as the bad cholesterol. And then you've got the HDL cholesterol, which is the good cholesterol. And then you've got triglycerides. And then there's a few other, depending on the panel that your doctor draws, we'll have a few others, but those are the big 4 that you'll see in there. The numbers that they have are there. The total cholesterol is optimal, is less than 200. Your LDL is supposed to be less than 130. Your HDL, they like it to be higher. The higher your HDL, the better. The top end of optimal, I'm giving you optimal numbers, would be 60 or greater. And then triglycerides would be less than 150 in a fasting state. And then you've got kind of the intermediate range for some of those. I'll give you the LDL would be 130 to 160. And then anything above 160 would be considered high. HDL cholesterol, you're going in a lower number. So instead of 60 or more, you're going to be 40 to 60 or less than 40. And so those would be the things to look out for, because you want higher HDL cholesterol. It's cardioprotective when you consider it to the others. And so those are the things that you're going to want to look for. Those would be the optimal ranges of those things.
Okay.
Now,
Hey, you know what? I got to tell you, I'm already getting bored. Mitch, can you tell me a little bit more about Pokemon stats? I thought
oh my God. So the very first Pokemon that was ever created was actually Rhydon. And so
no, Dr. Smith, I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be bored, but I think a lot of guys do kind of get bored with this. So tell me, why should I care about my cholesterol and lipid panels?
Damn you cut me off. I was literally
Well, I had to be a smart Alex, so that required cutting you off.
I had to get through the nerd portion of the show because you asked me to bring the,
I know I did. I know. These are good things. I mean, we should know these things.
Yeah.
Right? We should have some concept anyway.
I mean, we can go with the just trust me from now on, and I can just do the fun stuff if that's all right. I don't mind. The reason that the whole lipid thing is important is cardiovascular events. Nobody wants to have a heart attack or stroke. And keeping your heart healthy, this is directly correlated to kind of the plaque that's going to build up in your arteries over time. Now, we're all going to have some of that just living and having an American diet and having that burger once in a while. But we can obviously do our best to keep our body as healthy as possible. And keeping these numbers in a good range is going to help you do that and reduce your risk of cardiovascular events like heart attack and stroke.
So, I mean, it's kind of like on the dashboard of my GTO, if I had the cholesterol lipid panel gauge, the higher that thing gets with the bad cholesterol and the lower it gets with the good cholesterol, the more likely the heart's going to have a problem.
The more likely you're going to do damage over time. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right.
And this is a long-term play, right? So the lipid panel isn't like, hey, it's good in my 30s and it's absolutely, a dumpster fire in my 50s and 60s. You want to try to keep it, in a good range the whole time.
Okay. All right. So the big 5 stats men should know about their health and why cholesterol lipid panel is number 5. Number 4, what do you think that should be?
Number 4, I think, nobody loves to hear this, but I think looking at our weight and our BMI or body fat percentage, to me is a big one, because all-cause mortality, here's, the boring stuff again. So Scott, you can take a quick snooze.
I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to really try.
Well, just the overall health benefits of maintaining a healthy weight is the number one thing you can do to reduce your risk of cancer, to reduce your risk of heart disease, to reduce your risk of, arthritis, all these diseases that you have that we see. Keeping and maintaining a good, healthy weight decreases your risk for all of them. And so, I mean, if we were going to look at like one of them, it might be my number one because of the fact of how important it is. And if your body is able to maintain a good, healthy weight, you're likely a lot healthier than those around you just based on that alone. So there's 2 things that you'll usually hear your doctor talk about. They'll talk about your body mass index. And there's a lot of people who hate the body mass index, and it kind of judges you by being underweight, normal weight, or overweight, or obese. And what they do is they take your height and your weight, and they get a number for it. So like mine, for instance, I'm roughly 6 feet tall, and right now I weigh about 210 pounds. That's my fighting weight. So my BMI, if we put it into the calculator, is 28.5. Oh. And if we look at the calculator over here, underweight is less than 18.5. Normal weight is 18.5 to 24.9 or 25. And then overweight is 25 to 29.9. And then obese is anything over 30.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm pushing the upper limit there, and I probably need to drop some lbs. I was 2 years ago at 260, 265. So I'm down a little bit.
Wow.
And, I know that there's room for me to go. I think I'm not at a crazy unhealthy weight. But a lot of times people look at this BMI and they're like, it's just not attainable. I look at these people at the gym and they're, the guys that are super jacked at the gym have BMIs of in the 20, 27, 28, 29, even 30, because their bulk versus their height. And that's why people don't love the BMI. However, it's a good benchmark just to look at and go, okay, hey, there's some room for improvement. Yeah. A lot of the people who are going to be your bodybuilders and your people that are big fitness folks are going to look at more of a body fat percentage because they feel like the lean body mass is the more important thing. How much of your body is a body percent fat? And there's a lot of ways to do it. Your gym, sometimes they'll have a guy that does calipers, or they'll have a water thing that they can do where they'll submerge you in water and they'll calculate your body fat percentage, and you can kind of work off that. And a lot of people who are very fit but also have a lot of muscle bulk, prefer that to look at their health statistics rather than a BMI. But if you're just the guy getting off the couch, getting ready to run your first 5K since you were 25, a BMI is not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times, I don't know, in the back of my head, I've read one or two articles that are like, BMI is not that good for your health. But at the same time, like, it is a good benchmark to kind of tell, hey, where are you at? What do you need? And if you need to, maybe go and get one of these other caliper tests, or they do those bod pod things or whatever to really kind of get your exact numbers if you need it.
I'm sorry. I'm not a doctor, and this is not a doctor's opinion, and Dr. Smith can slap me down if I get way out of line here. I just get so annoyed because I think Mitch is absolutely right. A BMI is a good kind of starting stat. It's the body fat that causes these metabolic issues, right, Dr. Smith? It's not like because I got a ton of muscle and I'm on the upper end of the BMI. I think those guys know, right?
Sure.
I think
that, or they're in denial, one of the two.
Yeah. I think it's a good benchmark. Although I did see a research paper that talked about one of the other dangers of BMI is for people that are within a normal BMI range that's on the other end of the spectrum. They don't have as much lean muscle mass, but they have a lot of body fat. They're kind of skinny fat, like I consider myself. My BMI was in somewhat of a normal range. It was on the upper end, but my body fat percentage was a little bit of a different story. So anyway, I think with BMI, we know, I can squeeze around my middle and tell you if that's right or not. But I think the bottom line of what I'm hearing from this is if you're carrying around excess body fat, you might want to try to lose that excess body fat, because that can lead to some health conditions.
Right. I mean, you can grab your belly and say, is there a truck tire there or a kid's bike tire?
Yeah.
And you kind of know, right?
Right. Yeah. If you're being honest with yourself.
But at the same time, here's the other part of it too, is the BMI kind of came to prominence in my mind because it's a super easy thing I can do at my office.
Yeah.
I can get your height. I can get your weight. I can put it into this calculator and I can say, hey, Scott, you're a little bit heavier than you should be based on these metrics, right? And we all know, we can all look at somebody who's healthy and has a higher BMI, right? Could I stand to lose a few more pounds and improve my BMI? Absolutely. And so again, I think it's a good starting point, that conversation, to start the conversation. It's a good place to start. But I think once you get on a fitness journey and you start to do a little bit more, getting a little bit more in depth and getting maybe a body fat percentage or looking at some of those other options is probably a really nice way to help propel your fitness journey further.
Yep. And it's very motivating too.
Yeah.
Then you can kind of track that, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, cool. What about number 3 on the list of the big 5 stats should know about their health?
So number 3 for me is sleep.
Big one. Huh?
I mean, to me, like if you leave sleep off your list, like, I don't know, man. I have noticed that going through residency, going through all the stuff that you do, I realize how much sleep can really impact things. Like when you're up for a 30-hour call in residency and you literally get in your car and you're like, I don't know where I live. So with sleep, I think it's important, and there's so many things you can do to track your sleep. I mean, there's the Sleep Number beds, there's, Whoop and Aura and all these different tools that we have today that will help look at actual sleep patterns of deep sleep, REM sleep, the very restful types of sleep that you're looking at. And I think to me, sleep, I can tell you a huge difference when my body is rested and I actually get restful sleep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's another tool you can use, and that's the clock.
Yeah, right.
Well, but the clock doesn't always help, because there are certain things people don't realize, and I'm sure all of our listeners are savvy, but like alcohol use will inhibit your body from getting into the deep sleep.
Oh, got it.
So on nights where you may be out and you had a few drinks too many watching the Stanley Cup final, and you come home and you're not able to get that restful sleep, so you feel really dragged the next morning, because there are those certain things that are not going to allow your body to be as rested as it can be.
Yeah. Oh, to back that up, I mean, I was getting I was in bed and sleeping for a decent amount of time for a very long time, until we went and I actually got a sleep study done and found out I had severe restless leg syndrome. Remember, Kelly Barron was like, oh no, these numbers, right? Or whatever it was. But John, do you think that these devices can at least give us a little bit more information than just the hours that you're sleeping? Or, what is that one stat that we're really looking for to make sure that you are getting the most health benefits.
I mean, I think Scott's right on the clock, but I think if you do have some of these, if you have the disposable income to get some of these pieces of equipment, looking at your deep sleep and REM sleep can really make a big difference. And then looking at ways to optimize that. And you bring up restless leg. I have a lot of guys come to my office, want to talk about testosterone because they're gassed and they're like, I fall asleep in the middle of the day, blah, blah, blah. A lot of them have sleep apnea. Sure. And so that's another one where your body's not getting restful sleep because every time you start to fall asleep, you have difficulty with breathing. You may not wake up all the way, but those are things that you could talk to your doctor about and say, hey, I want to optimize these things. My wife says I snore really loud, or, I live with roommates and they're like, dude, you sounded like the air didn't stand a chance in that room. You were punishing that air all night. Those are the things where you may want to look at it and go, hey, I need to get in and just get checked out. And then, like you said, the restless leg, if you feel like there's something inhibiting your sleep, try to figure it out because it makes a huge difference.
So what's the hours for an adult of nightly sleep that we're kind of shooting for? Because I'd imagine that's the first thing that I'm going to get asked in the doctor's office.
Right. So, 6 to 8 hours, obviously 8 is better. Now, here's another thing. As you age, your body tends to need less sleep. And so what we find is that older individuals don't need as much sleep. And so you kind of have to look at it and really gauge by how the person's feeling. If the person, is getting sleep, you kind of look at the quality of the sleep at some point as well. Right. But the good benchmark is 6 to 8 hours.
So based on my experience on this podcast, and we have had a sleep expert on, Kelly Barron, a couple of times, you're going to want to try to shoot for that 6 to 8, maybe even 9 hours a night. I know that I was lying to myself about how much sleep I was really getting. I thought, I go to bed at 10 and get up at 6. And then I got one of those devices that actually, no, you weren't probably going to bed till 10:45, 11 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
So I think, making sure that you've got the hours, and then if you're not feeling rested the next day, that's when maybe a conversation with a doctor or a sleep expert might help. All right, number 4 on the list. What do you got here for the big 5 stats men should know about their health?
So for active men, the number of minutes to exercise a week and to not underdo it or overdo it, because you can kind of wear your body out. They have these measured METs of how much you should exercise and do. To me, I think if you're going to be healthy and you're going to be active, you need to do some strength training and cardiovascular exercise, but you shouldn't overwork yourself. But you also should make sure that you're actually doing it too.
What kind of the minutes should we be shooting for on this type of stuff?
So a lot of the stuff, depending on what you're doing. So the cardiovascular space, what I generally tell people to do is go look at your age. It's usually 220 minus your age as far as your target heart rate for when you're doing cardiovascular work. And that should be your max target heart rate if you're going to work out. And then you try to do 75 to 80% of that number when you're trying to get in a good space for like a cardio workout. And so those are the things that, are just easy kind of numbers to do, is just take 220 minus your age. And then kind of go from there.
75% of that then.
Exactly. 75, 80%.
Yeah.
But then, I usually tell guys that are just getting started, hey, start with 15 minutes a day. Just get off your can and go do 15 minutes of something. I don't care what it is.
Right.
Take a brisk walk in the neighborhood. And a brisk walk is just like right now, where you're walking quick enough where you can still have a conversation, but you might feel a little winded while you're doing it. That's a good pace for just getting your blood moving. And there's science behind getting your blood moving and moving all of the things that are there. And then, start with that, and then maybe start with 5 push-ups or, 10 push-ups, and then move from there and just do something. And that's my main thing is move your body. Your body was meant to move, and the reason that we get sore and old and creaky is we don't move anymore.
And how many minutes? So we want to kind of start out with, what you can, right? At a brisk pace where it's a little difficult to talk, you're a little winded. Eventually move up to, 150 minutes per week? Is that kind of what it is?
That's a great range to be at. And especially for people who are busy, it's a really nice thing to do. If you want to work it to 20 to 30 minutes a day where you're getting, 200 minutes, that's fine. But again, the 150 mark is good if you're just looking to maintain your health, and you don't have a lot of time and or desire to do it. That's going to at least give you something to hang your hat on.
Yeah. And we've discussed on this podcast before physical activity, like even just getting up and moving for 5 minutes for people that are completely sedentary can make a world of difference. Like we tend to discount, but research has shown that can help. So that really leads into, if you're not doing a lot, shoot for the 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, that's better than nothing. And the change it can have in your health, according to research, is quite a bit. So.
Right. And I mean, even people, when you're under the weather, getting up and moving and getting your blood moving actually helps to bring the healing factors and some of those larger lymphocytes and things like that kind of hang out in the larger vessels. It kind of moves them through and helps them get where they need to go. And there's actually some research that shows that light to moderate exercise when you're not feeling well is actually beneficial to help you heal. Now, you can overdo it really quickly, but just getting up and actually moving your body has been shown to be beneficial.
The Matthew McConaughey rule. Are you familiar with Matthew McConaughey rule, Dr. Smith?
No.
Oh, that's just get up and do something that makes you sweat for 30 minutes a day.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I mean,
that's his rule.
And then he adds like an all right. And
I thought that's what was coming. Actually, I thought it kind of felt like a trap. You know?
No, it wasn't.
I was like, he's about to okie doke me.
All right. The big five stats men should know about their health. We've covered 4 of them. That means we've got our very last one here. What is that? What are these numbers we need to know?
So mine is diet, the calories that you eat. It's funny how many people come in. Really, weight is a calories in, calories out game. And I think a lot of people think that they eat really lean and really healthy, but then they look at how many calories they're actually taking in. And it's a lot. And I mean, that's literally how I dropped the weight that I've dropped, the 50 pounds that I've lost. I literally cut 500 calories a day out of my diet, and 500 calories a day over a week is 3,500 calories, and 3,500 calories is a pound.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you fall asleep for that stat, Scott?
No. I'm curious, how many calories were you eating before and how many calories are you at now? Like for that stat of average calories eaten, where are you at?
So I was probably eating 3,500 to 3,700 calories a day.
Okay.
If we're being honest. And now I average between 2,200 and 2,700 a day, depending on the day and my exercise routine, on average. Okay. And so I've actually cut a little bit more down, but my goal initially was cutting about 500 calories a day, means that I'll lose a pound a week.
Got it. The thing that surprised me about average calories eaten is really how little calories we need. Like, I think we need all these calories, but is there kind of an average range for your average guy that they should be shooting for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you're doing too. I mean, the guys that we have that are listening that are, really in tune with that, they may need more calories during a bulking phase if they're trying to get whatever. But, around, that you hear the 2,000 calorie diet a day, between 1,800 and 2,200 calories, depending on your size, is usually a pretty good benchmark. And then if you're trying to lose weight, you obviously go up or down on those number of calories. But a lot of my patients who come in, they're like, yeah, man, I've had a really hard time losing weight. I said, dude, keep a diary of what you eat. Go look at it honestly. Don't just tell me that you eat clean and then come back and tell me that you ate 5,000 calories of bacon in one day.
Yeah. That was there's been a few times I've been trying to get my numbers down, and actually keeping a diary was when I started to realize, like, I'm eating clean, but I can't have like a bowl of nuts for like a snack, because that's a crap ton of calories, right? Mm-hmm. It was this kind of like, I know that the food I was eating was good food. It was, whole food. It was not processed. It was, a healthier, good fiber, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, those calories were really the thing that was kind of fighting against me.
Well, a lot of times
I used to eat a peanut butter spoon every day. I called it, like, it would be this big spoon of peanut butter. And, then I looked at the container and it's like, I was probably eating, I don't know, 250 calories of peanut butter in 2 seconds on that peanut butter spoon. Right. Like a tablespoon of peanut butter is 190 calories, and that adds up pretty quickly. Yeah.
And another thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is the beverages they consume.
Yes.
That glass of orange juice in the morning is like 300 calories.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a nice real glass of orange juice or milk or whatever, like a lot of those things, I drink diet drinks. Well, you don't drink diet drinks all the time. And so a lot of those things do make a huge difference, and if you think about it, 200 calories a day extra is close to a half a pound a week.
Of putting on weight if you're above what you need to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that literally is, most of your full sugar energy drinks, if you're like, oh man, I'm gassed, that's 200 calories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a simple thing just like that. I mean, that's 200 calories right there. That one beverage that you had when you were, when you got off work and you're like, I got to have this to go to the gym or whatever. I mean, that's that 200 calories of the reason you're not losing weight.
Yeah. Getting those average calories eaten, getting that stat, it can be a bit of a pain because you do have to be honest. You do have to log your food and your drinks. And if you're having a couple beers a night, there's another 400 calories you're not counting for.
Yeah. Even light beer's 96 calories per, I mean, that's 200 calories if you have 2 beers.
And that can add up fast. If you're already eating at a maintenance level and then you're having an extra couple hundred calories, to get to that 3,600 calories, it's an extra pound of fat. After a year, you're 5-10 pounds heavier.
Exactly.
So calorie, I think that's a huge one. That was a huge one for me too. And it's a number that's hard to get, but it's a number worth having. Yeah.
I think it's to me, it's important. Those are the little things that make the big difference long term.
All right. Well, that was a great list, Dr. Smith. I love that. Thank you very much for giving us the big 5 stats men should know about their health. So our challenge to you is start gathering your stats. If you've been to the doctor recently, you can often get these stats like your cholesterol, your lipid panel, your BMI through your healthcare provider's online portal if you don't remember what they were when you were at the doctor. If you don't know them or you can't remember the last time you had them checked or even been to the doctor, an annual physical would be a good place to start. Bring in this list. And just say, hey, I want to know these numbers. And then ask your doctor, are there other numbers that are important to me? And you can have a conversation about those stats with your provider and kind of see where you're at. And if you have any questions, maybe even a story about how knowing your stats changed your life, or you have a different take, we would love hearing from you. It's hello@thescoperadio.com. That's hello@thescoperadio.com. Thanks for listening, and thanks for caring about men's health.